So in today's video, what I wanted to bring you guys is 10 things that you must know about this year's Call of Duty title that is being developed by Infinity Ward. Now of course I do want to give a massive disclaimer before we get into all of that information, and it's the fact that this year's Call of Duty title is still 10 to 11 months away from its release, and in terms of Call of Duty development, that is an incredibly long time of its development cycle. So a lot of things are still subject to change, a lot of things mentioned in this video and a lot of things that have been said over the past couple of months on the internet are very much subject to change. A lot of things can be added, changed or removed from the game, and I just want to make that incredibly clear before I start to talk about all of the information that I know on this game. So yes, we are still 10 to 11 months away from its release. Even the title itself, which is currently dubbed Modern Warfare 2, is subject to change. So I would be taking all of this information in today's video with a grain of salt, and also all of the other bits of information that is out there at the moment, especially information including free-to-play elements coming to this game, also PlayStation exclusivity, Call of Duty stopping annual releases, and stuff like that. Now the reason for that is because, well, to be completely honest, is that all of the leaks on a lot of different games would typically come from developers, or of course the QA developers, in which they would not have access to this sort of information. Like I said, this game is 10 to 11 months from release, and to be 100% honest with you guys, it's likely that Activision don't even know what is going to be free to play or not with this game at this particular moment in time. Yes, things could be penciled in, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen by the time the game releases. If you guys want a little bit more understanding of how hectic gaming development can be, I would definitely recommend checking out my Battlefield 2042 development video, in which goes into a lot of depth into decision making and stuff like that, and you're definitely going to see that it's definitely not a linear structure when it comes to developing these games. But anyway, without further ado, I'm going to leave that as the first point in this 10 things you want to know about Modern Warfare 2, is that, well, this game is still very early in development, and although that we are now getting Call of Duty leaks, it seems earlier and earlier every single year, it means that a lot more things are subject to change as the development cycle does continue. But anyway, let's get into the next thing, and that is going to be the game's plot. Now, of course, we know a lot of this information already, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit to set up the expectations for this game, because, well, Modern Warfare 2 is going to be centered around the drug war against the Colombian cartels, and the campaign is being described as a grittier version of Modern Warfare 2019. So I wouldn't be surprised if this game makes headlines in media for some of the decisions you have to make and stuff like that, just like they did with Modern Warfare 2019, and I wouldn't be surprised if this game does get demonetized if you're playing the campaign on YouTube, for example. So that is something to bear in mind if you're like a player-free person or whatever, is that this game is going to be a grittier version of Modern Warfare 2019. Now, I do know that QA have played a few different missions on this game already, and from what they've said, the AI in the game are very sophisticated, and I'll be getting into the AI later on in this video. But for example, if you shoot them in the arms and the legs, they'll lose their limbs. If you shoot them in the chest, they might not necessarily die straight away, and they'll be lay on the floor gurgling blood and stuff like that. So that should give a little bit of an indication of the type of style of game that they're going with this Call of Duty title. Now, as well as this, with the game's plot, Task Force 141 will be returning to take the war on the cartels, and because of the location of which this game is set, which is of course in Colombia, there's going to be not necessarily a lot of heavy tanks, heavy armor and stuff like that, but instead it's going to be a lot of infiltration type missions. So you're going to be using a lot of jeeps, rubber dinghies, small helicopters and stuff like that, and the missions are going to be very tight quarters where you might find yourself in some very tricky situations. So that is the game's plot of this game, and now I want to move on to something that I think that people might be either upset or disappointed about, but also I think that it is exciting for this game, and it's the fact that yes, Modern Warfare 2 Remastered multiplayer was in development, and the reason why it was cut from actually happening is because Infinity Ward and Activision didn't want Modern Warfare 2 Remastered to either overshadow Modern Warfare 2019 as it was intended to release alongside it, or vice versa. So they didn't really want either of the games ruining one another's hype or player numbers or whatever it may be, so it was cut from development. And in the grand scheme of things, I think that this was probably the better decision, because now a lot of the assets that was already created for Modern Warfare 2 Remastered will now be coming over to Modern Warfare 2 2022. It gets a little bit confusing, but some of the stuff like the original maps will be coming over to Modern Warfare 2 2022, and some other different aspects. Some developers did mention some other things will be coming over to this game as well from Modern Warfare 2, the original Modern Warfare 2, but I couldn't really get a lot of details onto what exactly those things will be. But one of the things will be some of the maps, and they're going to play a vital role in the third game mode, which is called the DMZ. Now, the DMZ, or the Demilitarized Zone, is possibly a placeholder name, just the development name for the actual mode itself. It could change by the time the game releases, but this is going to be a very interesting mode indeed, and I'm pretty excited for it, because not only is this going to be Call of Duty's take on Escape from Tarkov, Hazard Zone and game modes like that, but also this game mode has been in development for 3.5 years already. So by the time this game does release, it would have been in development for 4.5 years. Now, I couldn't really get a reason as to why this game mode didn't release alongside Modern Warfare 2019, but because the DMZ will be containing a lot of Modern Warfare 2 maps, the original Modern Warfare 2 should I say, is that I believe that it could have been because Modern Warfare 2 Remastered was cut to release alongside Modern Warfare 2019, and I would assume somewhere along the way they thought to themselves, well, we can't really release this mod alongside Modern Warfare 2019 because it does contain a lot of those Modern Warfare 2 Remastered assets. So with the DMZ, there's going to be a lot of Modern Warfare 2 maps, I believe, in which are going to act like POI. So instead of Favela, for example, being just a 6v6 map that has been imported over to the DMZ, they have been expanded upon. And what I find really interesting about the DMZ is that when I was talking to a developer about Battlefield 2042 and the development of that game, he found it very interesting with Hazard Zone, because Hazard Zone, he said, looks like and feels like it was an afterthought with this game. It felt like it was just there just to solely act as something else within the game that hasn't really been developed that well. And he said with the DMZ, they've always intended for that game mode to be its own game mode and also to act as its own separate thing, and it has been built entirely from the ground up. So I think that is going to be very interesting to see. Of course, I don't want to get my hopes up entirely, but talking a little bit more about the DMZ, what's interesting about it is that yes, it's going to be PvPvE, and also the AI in the game are going to play a massive role. You would have seen with some of my leaks, also Valve's leaks, I believe, he talked a lot about this AI being completely overhauled. The system has been completely overhauled, with them holding limbs and screaming and gurgling and that sort of thing. And the reason for that is not only because of the campaign side of the game, but also because of this third game mode. For example, when you go to an objective, you're obviously going to be fighting up against AI, but these AI soldiers, for example, might call in reinforcements in which more AI will turn up. I've been told that they could repel from helicopters, they might turn up in a car or a van or something like that, and it's to add a whole different element of the DMZ and a massive new element of this kind of escape from Tarkov-esque type mode, and I think that is going to be really interesting to see if they can pull it off. Of course, if you see a massive helicopter coming overhead with a lot of AI in it and it's heading to one location, you pretty much then know yourself that stuff is going down with other players on a particular location on the map, so that adds a whole new element to what this mod is going to be. Now, as for the mod itself and what it's going to be exactly, well, that information is still a little bit up in the air. Like I said, this game is still 10 to 11 months from release, but yes, it is going to have a money-based system. It appears like there's also going to be looting on the map, so you could find different types of weapons and stuff like that. Maybe there's going to be someone that you could sell all of this stuff to, but it's not entirely clear of the whole direction of the mod, so at this particular moment in time, I can't really comment on what exactly this mod is going to be, but I would imagine the whole point is to do objectives, loot gear, sell it for cash and stuff like that, but at this particular moment in time, I'm not entirely sure on what the overall goal of it is going to be exactly, but I would imagine that it's going to be very similar to Escape from Tarkov. In addition to that, the DMZ map will also be acting as a Warzone map, which will be a part of the Modern Warfare 2 Warzone integration that we could expect around the same time as the launch of Modern Warfare 2. Of course, there might be a little bit of a delay with that integration like we saw with Vanguard, but it's my understanding that the DMZ map will also be the Warzone map coming to Call of Duty Warzone as well. Now, I did do an article over on VGC where I made it out where the Warzone map was being developed and then it would be used for the DMZ, but it's my understanding now that the DMZ has been built from the ground up, and instead of the Warzone map becoming the DMZ, it's more so that the DMZ is going to become the Warzone map. So hopefully that makes a lot of sense with how I'm trying to describe it, but it's not necessarily the fact that the DMZ has been developed as an afterthought just because they needed to develop a map for Warzone. It's more so the fact that they can use that DMZ map that they have built from the ground up and use it for Warzone. So we're going to be getting a Warzone map that is going to contain a lot of Modern Warfare 2 maps such as Afghan Quarry, Terminal and Trailer Park. Those are the maps that I have heard are coming to this map. Now, moving on to the game itself, that of course being Modern Warfare 2, I wanted to do a little bit of a quick fire round before I do conclude this video. One of these points is the fact that this game will be coming to both past and current generation consoles, but it is believed that this is very likely to be the last Call of Duty that will be coming to past generation consoles. Now, I know that Treyarch are currently working on a current generation only Call of Duty title, but that could change depending on market conditions. Of course, if current gen consoles are still hard to get and stuff like that, then it's entirely possible that Activision would greenlight a past generation version, but currently at this particular moment in time, this is going to be the last Call of Duty title that will release on both past and current gen consoles. Of course, that means that there is going to be a very noticeable gap between both past and current generation consoles, so if you do have the means to upgrade and you want to buy this Call of Duty title, then I would highly recommend upgrading your console in the next 10 to 11 months. Now quickly moving on to the next point, and I think that this is a pretty positive one, is the fact that this is actually going to be the first Call of Duty ever that will have the full 3 years of a Call of Duty development cycle. We've seen that this 3-year development cycle was of course introduced when Sledgehammer Games joined the Call of Duty development cycle in 2019, but by all accounts this is going to be the first Call of Duty title that has had its direction outlined from day one, and up until this point there hasn't been any significant issues with its development. Now of course we do have COVID, which has caused its own problems within itself, and it's getting to the point now where developers are getting used to working from home, and all of the issues that come with that are being resolved. I think that Call of Duty, especially this year's Call of Duty title, has been in a very unique spot because although that this is being developed during COVID, a lot of the problems that could have come with post-production actually got sorted out during pre-production. In addition to this, we're also seeing there is a few problems with Activision QA at this particular moment in time, and I believe that has been going on for a couple of weeks now, so hopefully that does get resolved. And like I keep saying and reiterating, this game is 10 to 11 months away from release, so there's still a lot of things that could go wrong, but if those Activision QA problems do get sorted, then I do think that Call of Duty is in a good position to release a title this year. Now of course I'm not saying that this is going to be a good or bad Call of Duty title. I'm trying to not to interject my opinions in these kinds of reports anymore, but I will say that it does mean that if these problems do get resolved, that it is going to be a title that has been in development for the full 3 years, and it's also a title where the direction of the game has been outlined and planned from the very beginning, and especially with the likes of the DMZ, it's even been in development before that 3-year development cycle. Now finally moving on and moving forward, and like I said, I'm not trying to interject my opinions in these kinds of reports, but what I will say is that I have seen pre-alpha footage of this Call of Duty title, and I'm pretty impressed with how well it actually looks. Now, like I said, that doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be a good Call of Duty title or a bad Call of Duty title, but over the past decade that I've been covering the Call of Duty series, I've seen probably 7 to 8 Call of Duty titles in its pre-alpha stage, and I'm pretty impressed with how well this game looks compared to a lot of the other pre-alpha footage Call of Duty titles that I have seen. So, of course, you can take that as you will. Like I said, I'm not saying that this is going to be a good Call of Duty title or a bad Call of Duty title, but in terms of how well this game looks, it definitely looks like a title that hasn't really had any significant problems with its development. But anyway guys, I'm going to leave the video as that. If you guys would like to follow me over on Twitter, I'll leave the link to that down in the description below. I'll also likely be answering some questions following this video if you have any, so please do tweet to me over there. And of course, please bear in mind that you should take all of this information with a grain of salt, because as I've said throughout the entire duration of this video, the game is 10 to 11 months from its release, and a lot of things can and probably will change with this game. But anyway guys, that is pretty much it from me. I've been Tom, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.